previewed of at the first council meeting, or the last council meeting in May. At this point in time, I've turned it over to Mr. Matt Killian, Chamber of Commerce, to kind of explain the survey and take the feedback that they're looking for before they proceed with the survey. Oh, sorry.
Introduce yourself.
Thank you, Brad. Tyler Lenham, Executive Director of Bladec, and myself along with Matt Killian. I'm going to walk through some of the survey questions and what we did and why we are going down this pathway. Between the Chamber and Bladec, we've been involved working with MnDOT since December to gather business input on the 371-210 project. We've held 4 information sessions, 2 in December of last year, and then 2 about 10 days ago here. So, you know, our goal with this is to obviously to present some information to our business community and get the feedback and be able to present the feedback back to you. So, with that, I'll turn the meat of this over to Matt. But thank you for having us.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Just a little bit of a role reversal, me coming to the Baxter City Council instead of you coming to the Chamber, so appreciate being here. Maybe just start with a little context. So the Chamber was approached, I believe, in late 2022 or early 2023 to support the application to get the Quarters of Commerce funding, $58 million, to do a intersection improvement. And the first time that they came to our Government Affairs Committee, and that was Tim Bray and others. I can't recall, Brad, if you were there at that point. Yeah. But we initially said no, because we did not see the design, so it's hard to ask for business sort of approval or enthusiasm for a design we had not seen. So they came back and presented us with a letter that was a generalized support letter that would say we're supportive of an intersection improvement provided that the business community would be intensely involved in the design of that, so it wouldn't do damage or have unanticipated consequences to that Baxter commercial corridor, and I know you feel the same way. So at that point, that Quarters of Commerce application was submitted. My understanding with that is that when you have the support of a Chamber of Commerce or similar entity that gives you additional points as competitive funding, that may have been what it took to get them over the top to land that $58 million. And so the first thing I'd like to say is compliments to MnDOT and all the players for doing what they said they do and giving us some extra attention via the Chamber to the business community. They've done this with the Washington Street reconstruction as well, which I'll get to in a minute. But that process went exceedingly well, and they had a lot of interest and suggestions and complaints, and they were able to accommodate all of them. So I want to start by saying I think MnDOT's done a good job. They're also partnered with WSB. Eric, I can't think of his last name right now, but Eric Schiller and Derek, who is the project manager for WSB, the engineer. So we did those meetings. We had 160 people showed up. I know the mayor was there. Councilman Sundberg was there as well. We had some conversations with him afterwards. But as I compare the Washington Street project to the 371 overpass interchange project, it's really tough for businesses to respond to those initial 5 designs. And I know that you received the concept presentation, basically the same one that we did. I think we maybe got first initially in December, just based on the way the timing went. And then you saw it about a week or 2 before we did in June. And so the Washington Street project was all at grade. Businesses understand left turn access, they understand on-street parking, they understand roundabouts. They were able to make a lot of suggestions to the concept. When we saw the designs, they had a lot of questions, they had a lot of curiosities, but they didn't have a lot of suggestions because there were 5 different concepts at that point. And so you know all the different processes that MnDOT went through. Fast forward now to when we saw the preferred buttonhook design a couple weeks ago. And I think, let me put it this way, I think the businesses were sort of shell-shocked at what they were seeing, even though that was a concept that was presented. Now it became real. And I've heard a lot of businesses have major concerns about what it's going to mean for the traffic, the customer access, safety, employee access. There's a variety of things out there. But they're sort of at a loss to recommend improvements because you have 6 different roundabouts, I believe, 4 to 6 different roundabouts. You have multiple elevations. There's the train tracks running through there. You have private right-of-way. It's hard to look at that in 2 dimensions and say, hey, if you just did this or that or this, this would all be fine. So you didn't hear a lot of feedback. Afterwards, I did, and I can tell you that I didn't hear anyone say it was a good idea. Virtually every business I talked to or who reached out to me is very concerned about what it would do, especially the small locally owned businesses, which the chamber represents along with others. So when we look through the MnDOT process, and again, I want to compliment them on their process because it's very data driven. One of the data points that you're not going to see on the chart is business feedback or business opinion. They did do a survey. There's about 130 responses. 5 of those responses indicated they were business owners. So in that process, in addition to the chamber sessions, you had 5 people fill out that survey. To me, that's not enough. I think we need more. And I can't sit up here and tell you this is a bad idea and that all the businesses are not supportive of it, because I don't know. I've just heard a lot of anecdotes. The chamber gets asked to take positions on a lot of things. We don't play lawyer for businesses. It needs to be a consensus of our members that causes us to take a position, but we're not there yet. So what I can tell you is I talked very meaningfully at length with at least 4 businesses. One, I can tell you, plans to sell. 3 are actively looking for other locations. And I know when you look at projects like this, you tend to hear a lot of exaggeration. I don't think this is exaggeration. I think you're looking at least having 4 major businesses vacate that corridor as a result of the design. That's what I'm hearing right now. I'm passing that along to you. I'm just passing the conversation along to you. I'm not at liberty to talk about who it is. But they're businesses you know. So what I thought would be a good next step, and reached out to Tyler because he's been involved with all these processes like I have with the feedback sections, is why don't we do a business survey? And I'm not talking about a 3 to 5 question survey that just sort of goes an inch deep. I'm talking about a survey that really gets at how businesses feel about that and see if we can quantify the impacts, both positive and negative, about what this design might do to your commercial corridor. We have 196 chamber members. We have about 160, as Tyler mentioned, attend the business feedback sessions. I'd like to open it up to the community, and this will not be an anonymous survey. I want 1 response for each business, and that's it. And we'll make sure we don't get more than that. I want a senior leader or the business owner to fill it out. And right now I have a target of 50. I think we can get 50 survey responses back. And I think that will give you the data point to at least consider before you potentially give municipal consent as early as the end of August, and that's MnDOT's timeline. So with that, I did not want to just move forward and just do the chamber survey without asking for your impact or your input, the county's input and MnDOT's input. So there's a couple of questions in here that both Councilman Sudberg and Brad have recommended. They're already in here. We can talk about those. But I think if you're helping us develop the instrument, you're going to have more ownership in the results. And so that's really the point of getting this in front of you tonight. We'd like to send it out soon. Once we hit the 4th of July, it's hard to get people's attention, so I'd like to have maybe a 2-week collection period and then come back. Brad had suggested early August, which I believe is August 5th, to present the results. At least you'll have those, in addition to all the rest of the information. So with that, I think I've talked enough, but that should give you some context as to what we're hearing and what we intend to do. So I'd be really anxious to hear any suggestions or edits or additions you might have to the survey.
Can you explain again? You said that there was a survey given before, but only 5 businesses responded.
So, yeah, MnDOT has I don't want to speak for their process because I don't know it inside and out, but as a sort of a standard practice, they open out a community survey to anybody who wants to fill it out. Could be residents, could be pedestrian users, bikers, people that commute, even people that use it from out of town. So anybody gets a chance to fill that out. And so if you go back and look at the slide, and I believe you received the same presentation as us, as it lists how people identified and all those categories, they had 5 self-identified business owners that filled out the survey out of the 130 respondents.
That was their online survey,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah, online survey that took place earlier this year, at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I fully support getting more information from the business owners. Can't hurt or say.
I agree, we can't have too much information. And that's a big sector of people that we have not really heard from.
Right.
I guess I would say I appreciate the fact that you're intending to make it non-anonymous.
Mhm.
We often get asked to make decisions based on the vague. Someone somewhere will do something. And that makes it really hard because
Sure.
of that, uncertainty. I guess when I read through everything, the one concern that I have or question, I just want to throw out there that
Mhm.
I'm not asking for an answer for, but it kind of ties to it. There's an implied as is, leave it alone answer.
Sure.
And that concerns me a little bit in that it's not, I think I heard one suggestion from someone basically implying like, take that money and do something else with it.
Right.
It's, as you well know, it's not an option. We will both lose a relationship with MnDOT and not get that money. So there's a dynamic there that concerns me if we're 3 years in and then everybody says, we're insisting that it stays as is.
Mhm.
I hope we're planning on doing something to improve the intersection like we planned on.
Sure. Yep. I'll take a look at that to make sure that that doesn't stand out as an option that we're trying to lead people to. But I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I agree, we need to do something to improve the safety of that intersection. So, or just maybe an alternative or.
Good.
I'm not a business owner, I'm not very smart, that. So from the cheap seats, I would ask the question about the expected change in customer revenue as a result of the project.
Mhm.
How can somebody come up with those numbers, 6%, 11%?
Right. Yeah, so what they'd be looking at, I think, there is, most of the businesses have a pretty good idea about where their customers are coming from through credit card transactions and all of that, whether they're local or tourist or, a variety of other information that they're able to glean. So it's an estimate based on the reduced amount of traffic count, and whether or not it's 100% accurate. I think it gives you a snapshot of what they're thinking, and I want to be really careful that we're not fishing for negativity either. I mean, if you feel like your access is going to be improved, or visibility is going to be improved, and I certainly think there are cases where that will happen. We want to hear from those businesses as well. The other thing, Mayor, that I would say is that MnDOT did a good job with elevating business access as a priority. You're not gonna do a multi-roundabout, design that's not necessarily common. It's not completely new either, but they did that to preserve business access. So I wanna give them credit for that, because they heard that loud and clear. Our members are just saying, boy, that maybe is not what we were imagining. So that's where we are with it. But yeah, regarding that question, what I would say is that they were gonna give you an estimate on that.
Thank you. Anything else, council, you'd like changed or added to, or?
I've already had my chance to throw my opinion in there. And it is a pretty common thing for business owners. I mean, I get an email, just like a consumer confidence rating. I get an email at least annually from some entity asking for like your thoughts on business. You know, do you expect an increase, decrease, stay the same? I think it's actually the state Fed does that. Or one of the regional Fed offices sends out just a business survey. So yeah, these numbers are, and if a business is looking at, we might have to move, they've probably got a good bead on what they think this might do to their business. If they see a significant drop, and most businesses, especially if they're well established, they know how much of a hit in percentage of traffic they can handle versus and still stay afloat.
Thank you.
It's still a guess, but.
I'm not arguing, I needed some,
Sure.
Seemed like kind of an aggressive question, you know, I didn't come up with that, but that all makes sense, so. Anything else, staff, anything else, Brad?
No, as Matt indicated, we, as a staff, take a look at it. The aesthetics question is the one that we added to it. Is we know that people take pride in the aesthetics of our roundabouts and things like that. And this is a new structure that changes the dynamics of people's visual perception of Baxter, and how much should aesthetics play a role in this. So I appreciate Matt including that in the survey. Do you have an estimated timeline when you anticipate to get the survey out?
Could be as soon as Friday. We just have to build it and get it to the right folks. I would like to advertise it in the newspaper as well. As you know, you have more than 196 businesses in Baxter. That's the chamber member businesses, so I don't want to just be exclusive to our members. I don't know, Brad, if Baxter itself has means of sharing the survey. That would be appreciated. But yeah, that would be as early as Friday, at the latest Monday. And then I would like to have it open for 2 weeks. We close it before the 4th. That gives us about a month to sort of synthesize everything. MnDOT, I've been in contact with Eric Schiller. He would like to see the results, maybe an early sneak peek. They have an open house happening on July 22nd. So he would like to be able to at least get the temperature of the business community, so I will be able to sneak peek at that, sort of in the spirit of partnership. And then I'll be back here on August 5th, and we'll walk through slides, and we'll see what we can do to sort of illustrate the feedback.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Anybody else?
All right, thanks a lot. I
Thanks.
appreciate it. Yep, thanks.
Okay, number 2, code enforcement review.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. At the last city council meeting, the council requested an update on the code enforcement project that we've been working on. Specifically, the council had budgeted for a new position, a building inspector and code enforcement coordinator position. So I wanted to provide an update to the council on kind of where we're at, what we've been working on. And the memo kind of lays out in general terms what we've been looking at. Essentially, there's 4 kind of categories to what we've been doing and what we're attempting to achieve with the code enforcement program, so to speak. One being to develop the actual program itself so that when that individual starts as an employee, they can hit the ground running rather than having to spend time with developing the program. So we've been working on that. The other thing is to do amendments to the city code. One of the major goals with the whole discussion of code enforcement is to get our codes in a better situation where we can more efficiently act on code enforcement matters in a way that doesn't bog down our planning commission meetings and council meetings with hearings and having longer processes than is needed. So that was always a goal with how can we improve things in that regard so that we can be more efficient with everybody's time in this regard and have a better program in that way. That takes code amendments. And then what other tools are part of that to achieve that goal as well as what other goals the city has. And then development of the job description, which draft is attached for you for that position title. That hasn't been approved by the city council, but did include the draft of that for you. And then the fourth main facet to this is also requires amendments to the fee schedule. And that really ties into the general approach on what we're looking at. So I'd love to get any feedback the council has. But what we've been doing is, and I keep saying staff's been working with, a number of staff have been looking at this together with the city attorney. I've been working a lot with the city attorney in terms of the code amendments. And the general approach that we've laid out and we want to bring forward to the council, the future here is the idea of obviously writing letters to folks that have code issues, and then having an administrative citation process that's basically a fining process. One of the good things about going that route versus other enforcement tools is it doesn't go on anyone's record right away, whereas the way we're kind of seeing it is where it's, you get into more of a criminal approach where you're taking this into the legal system. If there's non-compliance with letters and hearings through the city, then that becomes a thing that's on people's records. Whereas if you have a fining approach where you can, if there's a period of time without compliance, you can impose fines. Hopefully that can create an action of correction without having to go through a lot longer and a more arduous process. The other thing that we're looking at is another tool of abatement, which is really designed for those more public nuisance situations, things that are viewable from the city right away. So let's just say someone was dumping garbage in their yard or something that's just needs to be acted on right away for nuisance reasons, public health reasons. Those things, an abatement process and having that tool in the toolbox, so to speak, allows the city the opportunity to hire someone to take care of the action, take care of the matter immediately, and then assess those costs back to the property owner. The city attorneys talked about if you're going to go with abatement as a tool, there are some limitations to that. It has to be viewable from the street. So if it's behind a fence or it's not viewable, that's not a tool for that. There are some legalities with how to use the abatement tool, but it's certainly something that our attorney has recommended we include in the code as one of our tools moving forward. And then of course you're going to have folks that don't pay if you go with this approach of citations. You're going to have people that don't pay the fines. They may not pay after the first fine. Maybe there's an escalator. That's what we're looking at is with fines as an escalator. So first fine would be a certain amount, then it goes on from there. But you may have people that just choose not to pay and argue it, or maybe they would just contest the whole approach. So there has to be an administrative hearing process, and we're working on the details of that as well. But that's really what's been structured. There's a draft that we're working off of for the code amendments. We have a draft of the job description. As I indicated in the memo, the part that we're kind of working on last is the fee schedule amendments, because we were hoping to look at a more comprehensive community development fee schedule amendment at the same time. But depending on the council's interests, we could certainly move this code enforcement program to get something in front of you sooner than later and actually just focus on the fee schedule amendments that are just related to code enforcement. If the council has interest in moving these forward sooner than later. So next steps really, we just need to finish up our review of the amendments and of the fee schedule, and then we can bring the job description, fee schedule amendments, and the code amendments forward in the near future, the very near future, if you want it to be so. So that's really where we're at, and then of course after we're done with that, then our goal would be to advertise and hopefully hire the position. Once the code amendments and the fee schedule amendments are done, even if we don't hire someone right away, staff will have better tools in place to start that process, even if we don't have someone hired. So if there's issues that are looming with complaints or whatever, we'll be able to get at doing more easily. So that would still be a good thing, even if it takes us a little bit to hire the position. So I guess that's my update for you guys, and happy to answer any questions you have.
Not necessarily a question, just I appreciate you sharing this information with us. I would be in the camp of let's do what we can to get this taken care of sooner rather than later. Today I received a message about a lawn, so I seem to be the go-to person for complaints about grass and trash.
There you go, all kind
One thing that does relate to a follow-up, I mean, we do respond to complaints. But we have a process for grass that I think doesn't require code amendments, because we can, if they don't respond to our letters, we can charge that against their taxes and actually hire a contractor to mow their grass for them. That's in place, and that program we've used successfully. This time of year, you get those early June rains, and it seems like there's a lot of unmowed lawns right away until people get in the groove, and it just seems like we have a lot more unmowed lawns each year, but we do have tools for that. But so if you do get complaints, please feel free to pass them along to us. We log complaints, we call people about violations, we write letters. Carrying the enforcement all the way through with the tools we have is the challenge for now, and hopefully we'll have better tools in the near future. So.
And I encourage them to reach out, obviously, anonymously, hopefully that they do, but I think it's just part of the whole atmosphere of the world these days, people are real eager to complain about things. They're very vocal about it.
I agree that we need to be moving on it, because we've talked about it for a long time. And it's in the budget for this year, right? And we're how far into this year? So I would say move forward, and I guess I wouldn't be so worried about waiting till the program's in place to have this person help put the program in place. Going through the job description, the only thing I would like to see is when you break up the job duties, that code enforcement is first, and building plan review and inspections and whatever is as they have time.
I wasn't aware that was even going to be a part of it, actually.
Well, if you read that,
Well, no, I read it, but I mean, up until seeing all that, now I understand.
as opposed to hiring a second building inspector, we're hiring a code official, or a code enforcement official, right? So I would structure your job description to that.
I would agree with that.
And whether that changes your org chart a little bit, whatever, but they can always have second duties to building inspection and be a backup to our building inspector.
I would just add that, sorry,
Go ahead.
it's kind of this subject is a double-edged sword. It's going to come with some unhappy people, and they might be our neighbors, they might be your relatives, whatever. But I think enough is enough, and I think we've gone too far. And I've said this before, but my concern is that if we don't, and it's not just grass. I mean, grass is one thing, but it's the peripheral stuff that goes along with it. And gonna go a whole lot, we're gonna lose control of our city. We're gonna lose our city and the aesthetics and stuff that we worked hard for. And it's not fair to the other people around that are abiding by it. So just be advised, and you're smart and you know that it will not come without pain and without some probably unhappy phone calls. But I'm ready to take those phone calls. I think enough is enough. So I think that press forward what you're doing there. The voice of one, of course.
I've said since the day I started that that our code should be something that we're comfortable enforcing. I think there are some things that we as a council really should look at before we let loose a code enforcement officer. In my past experience, I've seen them get themselves into all kinds of interesting situations where it's their job to enforce the code, so they're gonna find a way to enforce the code, and they're gonna go look at things that other people aren't looking at, and they're going to find the people who don't want to be found, and they're gonna call them out. So I think there are certain codes that are, I just hope that in the review you're looking through, and if we have to go through a full-out debate here about which codes we want to keep and which we don't. I think there are some that I'm very much in favor of getting rid of, and I'll leave it at that for your work with the attorney, but I can look out my door and see about 50% of my neighborhood is violating one of the codes very much, and that's going to be day one for a code enforcement officer, is 50% of the city getting tickets. So that's my concern.
Yeah.
I also want to know, I'm going to go out right on the front of it, and this won't be revenue neutral, and I want to come out strongly to say I hope that we can clearly articulate to the residents that this is in no way, shape, or form a revenue source for the city. At best, every time a fine gets levied, we will lose money. They're a compliance tool only. And I will not be pushing anyone to try to raise revenue through fines.
Well stated. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Number 3, creation of a second general investigator position.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Before you, I have some documents that you guys probably have already read, and I'll just cover that a little bit. This is in regards to the 2024 budget, where we were approved to hire 16 full-time officers. Unfortunately, through some circumstances of training and retirements and resignations, we never were able to fill that position when we said that we would like to start around the July 1st, 2024. I'm excited to tell you guys that we're very, very close to being full staffed. We have offered 2 jobs, and they will be starting very, very soon. One actually next week and one after the 4th of July. So that puts us in a position to have a conversation about what that 16th officer would be. And as we get bigger in the city, and with some of the calls that we're starting to see, we're starting to have a little bit more calls with an investigative need. Since 2005, we've had 2 investigators within our department. One is a general investigator, and he investigates solely the crimes within the city of Baxter and things that may be associated outside of it, but they're pertaining to Baxter. The other one is a drug task force officer. He will help with very complex or very detailed investigations, but it's not very common or that he will come in and assist on those. If it's big, he will, but he's more dedicated to the drug task force. So as we have gotten bigger, we've had some very time-consuming investigations. As you can imagine, that's what an investigation is. It's just not an open book and close it. There are many there's a process to be followed on most of them, and there's a lot of follow-up, which can be a very big time consumption on that investigator. So a lot of these cases are sexual assaults, death investigations, elder abuse, financial exploitation, whatever the case may be. They are big and they do require a lot of time. Also, we have started to see a little bit more increase on the call loads for the one investigator that we have. If you can imagine, if you have a big scene or just one that's a little bit, taking a little bit of the resources out of them, we dedicate an officer off the road to help them out, or other agencies, and that can take away from the calls that we currently are responding to. Other agencies may be taking those calls, so forth and so on. So there's a little bit of a trickle effect there by only having one investigator. So with that being said, I have some additional things and duties that I'd like to task a second investigator. And some of those things that we're currently using or doing are done by patrol officers, which necessarily isn't made for them. Those are some compliance checks with alcohol, tobacco, and then soon to be marijuana or cannabis compliance checks. We're required to do those by the state of Minnesota for their licensing. So what I'd like to present today is looking for a little bit of feedback as we look at a second investigator, general investigator position. And there's not, for the time being, as we get into July, we'll be doing some training with the new officers. So it'd be kind of a hybrid model that I've looked at, and it would be very limited for the months of July, August, and September. And then once our school resource officer, they're in the position to help out cover the road right now since they're not in the school. Once that SRO goes back to the school, then the investigator would go back to the road until the new trainees are done, which is anticipated in about October, somewhere around there. So with that being said, the financial implications would be very limited. At this point in time, it wasn't budgeted to have an investigator this year. Per our union contract, it's about 70 cents for a shift differential, so it's not considered a promotion. This would be just a shift differential for the hours work that that investigator does. So with the anticipated shifts, I'm estimating approximately about $600 for the summer months, and then once that officer is able to become a full-time investigator for the rest of the year, it's going to be approximately $600. And that would be made up with the savings that we've done in 2025 since we've been short already for 6 months, 2 positions. So going into the following year, then that would be about the cost wages for that investigator to continue in 2026 would be about $1,900 approximately, and that would be incorporated potentially into the 2026 budget. So today I'm just looking for some comments, feedback from you guys. If you have any questions about it, willing to answer anything that you may have.
Council? It's fairly well laid out.
I think if there's a need for it, we need to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, well presented.
All right. Thank you.
4.
Mayor and council, I want to start by apologizing for my apparent appearance. And if I adjust my clothes, it was T-ball tonight and it rained the entire time. So, so Eric Welch was not able to attend tonight, so I will be going through the 2030 Wilton Road, Ashley Road, Baywood Road, and Springwood Drive, and Fort feasibility report. So tonight, the project area that we'll be looking at is the Welton Road area up there by Whipple Lake. So this area has currently 3 zonings included in it. The red line is the project area. The orange color is residential staging, RS. The lighter yellow color is R1, low density residential, and the bluish purple color is public benefit. That is important depending on how that changes how the assessments and everything is calculated with that zoning. So the existing conditions, there's not a whole lot out there. As you can see in the upper left-hand corner, there's utilities running down Clearwater Road, and they do not extend up Welton Road. Going through here, you can see that there are a lot of large parcels going through here. There's pretty low density in this area with some pretty large lots up on Ashley Road there. So for the proposed conditions, next year, construction is proposed to take place on Clearwater Road. Part of that construction will be installing a new lift station at the intersection of Welton and Clearwater Road. That allows this area to be served with sanitary sewer. So all proposed sanitary sewer running down the center line of most of all these roads will connect into that lift station that'll get sent on through the system. So other than that, it's a pretty normal project. As I said, sanitary sewer running down the middle of the roads with water main typically on one of the shoulders of the road. Redoing the driveways all the way up to the right-of-way line and providing services for those individuals getting assessed. Yeah, there's pretty normal project through and through. Currently, Welton Road, Ashley, and Baywood have a 26-foot wide pavement section with Black Oak and Springwood area having a 24-foot and then 26-foot on the Black Oak and Springwood area currently. Underneath the proposed conditions, they would go to a 26-foot wide pavement section with a 1-foot grass shoulder. That's just with the current standards of the city for right now. Obviously, that's subject to change potentially. Overall, the project is a little over $1.8 million, and we'll break that down here coming up. So, for the project implementation, the project is proposed to be assessed on a ERU basis, which is pretty common in residential areas. These rates of being assessed are set by the city council. For estimation purposes for 2030, we estimated an increase of 3% each year. Obviously, as we go forward, that is based on either the 3% or the consumer price index, whichever is greater. So you can see there the jump between 2024 and 2030 in those ERU assessment costs, and then obviously the remaining costs will be picked up by the city. So for the sanitary sewer, that is just under $2 million for that construction cost, or the project cost, with 102 ERUs on the project. That leaves a little over $1.3 million in city costs. There's 48 total numbers of existing homes with an estimated SAC collection of just under 29,000. So bringing the total sanitary sewer cost to just over $6 million. Similar for the water, that's just over $1.7 million, and with the 102 ERUs, that brings the city's cost to just over $1 million for water improvements. Same with the WAC fees, bringing the total water improvements cost to just under $1.8 million. For the roadway costs, a little bit more simple. Having that capped at just over $8,800, the city cost is just over $1.1 million. So right now, the red dots are the current assessable properties. The blue dots represent deferred assessments, and then the green dots, there at the Whipple Lake, those are city assessments. So, in this area, you can see there's a lot of potential for lot splits. We took a lot of time and worked with city staff pretty in depth on these. And there's actually notes from the P&Z comment, or P&Z comments on these currently. So go through those and it sheds some more light on some questions that you may have. One thing that I did want to touch on is, like in the Welton and Ashley area, the areas that are zoned RS, these would have to be zoned R1 in order to do these lot splits. So that's heavily dependent on that region. And it kind of gives a little description in there of more of what I'm using. So there's, again, a lot of potential lot splits. I'll just flip through them for the sake of time. So,
Pause you there for
yeah,
I don't know if it's for anybody else, but all those comments, they don't load in the PDF. For me, everything, as you zoom in, it just gets blurrier and blurrier. So if you could pull them out somehow, I don't know if that's something for everybody, but I can't.
I understand them to be in the report.
Okay.
So if you have the feasibility report,
Okay.
you can view them there.
All right.
If I am mistaken, please let me know, and we'll get you a copy of those. I understood them to be in the report.
Okay.
So you're talking printed report as opposed to the digital report? Because I'm looking at the digital report, the same
Same thing, it's not the
It just
same.
blurs out. It hasn't been copied for the right resolution.
Yeah, yep, understood. So we could get you copies.
Why don't we print out 5 and we'll send them out?
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
send out 5 printed copies.
Yep, that's no problem. Sound good? Perfect. So overall, the project cost summary, the assessed portion of the project is just over that 20% threshold. So that's something to keep in mind when this project starts back up again, that it could creep below that 20% threshold, which would change how the city bonds for the project. Something to keep in mind. So, like I said, as a whole, this report was drafted to provide numbers for the CIP that's currently in the works. This project is currently slated to pick back up in 2029, where we'll start that process all over again. Questions?
I just have a comment. It'll be the same comment I made last time. I'd like to see the CIP report on how we're gonna pay for this. Because on a $5.8 million job, there's just under $5 million of city cost. I don't see the cost benefit. Otherwise, I'll accept the report, but that's mine.
And that's newly voted, and as Alex alluded to, the CIP, and I know Finance and Public Works Administration are working hard to try and get to the point where we can have a conversation regarding the CIP and our assessment policy as a whole, which was a directive that was given to, by the council towards the end of last year, so.
Yes, I can add 2 other comments. As you were predicting, I don't see in our recent conversations much justification for 26-foot wide roads and these being they all kind of dead end somewhere nearby. And then I would just ask, as you're building out notifications to property owners, you might already be doing this, but I know in the past there was a certain amount of the SAC and WAC fees were kind of a little side thing. And if we could get a very clear, this is the total that this will cost you, that would be something I think would be wise to do. I think the last one I recall seeing and looking closely at split those 2 out, which I guess just that little extra math might be great.
Yeah.
I agree. You shouldn't have to have 3 different.
Yeah, just like this is the cost. You can split them out and show them. but this is the actual cost.
Provide a table with that.
Yeah.
Anything else? Mr. Good, thank you.
Motion to close the workshop.
Motion across.
I'll second.
Patrick, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Passes. We're done with the workshop. It's, Brad, any changes or adjustments to the agenda?
We have one, Your Honor, the addition to the consent agenda, which is approve the appointment of Joseph Newman to the seasonal position within the streets and utilities maintenance.
Okay, duly noted. Public comments, anybody have a comment you'd like to express to us on something that's not on the agenda?
On the agenda or the full items?
There aren't gonna be any poll items, but,
I know, but I mean, the vote.
hey,
The full items at the end.
yeah.
I just want to make sure I can talk for 1 minute.
Okay, you got 1 minute.
Okay.
Fine.
Might be 2. And I'm gonna read it, so I don't get sidetracked. And I know you have to give the answers to your questions, but to me, it's either it's right or it's wrong. So here's just my real quick recap. First, it's been mentioned many times that this should have been addressed in the fall. I called Alex in October to find out my assessment and was told they don't know the amount or even how the calculation will be done. I don't know how I can object or even vote on anything that I don't know. I called again in January and was told the assessment would be between 35 and 95. Next, I'm told it is my right to protest both the fact that I don't think the project will raise my property value in the amount of the assessment, which it must according to the statute, and the fact that I'm being unfairly assessed because my property is worth about a third per square foot what the other properties are worth. To do this, I would need an appraisal, which is approximately $20,000, and an attorney to take it to court, which who knows how many thousand. This option is clearly not an option. I think the city should base assessments on value of property in the same way the county does with taxes. That seems much more fair. Then there's the issue at hand, the project itself. The engineers have stated that they use a PASER rating to determine the course of action. They have rated Audubon Bay a 5. The PASER treatment for a 5 is, quote, seal coat or non-structural overlay of less than 2 inches. I have it right here if you want to see it. First of all, it took 21 years for this relatively non-traveled road to nowhere to get to a 5. Next, the treatment they have planned, which is full depth reclamation, is the treatment according to PASER with a rating of a 2. This makes no sense to me, other than it might be cheaper for the sewer repair if we pay for the road. It's a huge financial burden to this business, especially mine, with 93% of my property value. This whole process has been beyond frustrating and stressful. I'm sure you don't like it any more than I do. But I've never done anything like this. I'm a very small business already struggling in an oversaturated market, which is not your issue, I realize. But I would ask for your consideration and think about the facts and the points that I just brought up. And stall this project for 3 to 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Anybody got anything else, city business you'd like to bring up, public comments that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing that, we'll move forward with the consent agenda. The following items are considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any council person, staff, citizen, or meeting attendee can request one or more items pulled from the consent agenda. Any item will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent agenda. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. Number 1, approve the city council work session minutes from June 3rd, 2025. Number 2, approve city council minutes from June 3rd, 2025. Number 3, approve the payment of bills and finance report. Number 4, approve the temporary liquor license for Jack Brewery to conduct temporary liquor license sales on July 12, 2025 at North and North Rico.
I'd like both number 4 and 5 pulled, please.
Pull number 5 also will come back down. Number 6, approve transferring the on-sale intoxicated and Sunday sales liquor license from Pancho and Lefty's Fiesta Restaurants Inc. to Pancho and Lefty's Adobe Restaurants Inc. for the licensing period of July 14th, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. 7, approve the issuance of tobacco licenses for the licensing period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Number 8, accept the Utilities Commission minutes from June 4th, 2025. Number 9, approve the R.L. Larson Excavating Inc. change order number 8 in the amount of $6,526.50 from the 2024 South Forest View Improvements Project, municipal project number 4138. Number 10, approve the R.L. Larson Excavating Inc. partial pay estimate number 10 in the amount of $70,376.36 for the 2024 South Forest View Area Improvements Project, municipal project number 4138. Number 11, approve Pratt's Affordable Excavating Inc. partial pay estimate number 1 in the amount of $103,106.52 for work completed on contract B related to the 2025 water supply improvements, wells 5 and 6, municipal project number 6011-45040. Number 12, accept the quiet zone of affirmation process memorandum. Number 13, accept the 2030 Welton Road, Ashley Road, Baywood Road, Black Oak Road, Springwood Drive, and area utility and roadway improvements municipal project CPF 4143 feasibility report. Number 14, approve school resource officer agreement with ISD 181 for the 2025-2026 and 2026-2027 school years. Number 15, approve quick link deed from city to Amazon to correct permanent easement for the project Timberwolves Offsite Pond. Number 16, approve Baxter Brainerd 4th of July celebration event fireworks and senior center annual contributions as budgeted. Number 17, approve the issuance of liquor licenses for the licensing period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Number 18, accept Planning and Zoning Commission minutes from June 10th, 2025. Number 19, adopt resolution 2025-054, approving a variance to accessory structure height for property located at 6441 Foley Road. Number 20, adopt resolution 2025-053, approving interim use permit amendment to allow fireworks sales stand in the parking lot of Westside Liquor located at 15807 Audubon Way. Number 21, approve the name of the city's dog park as Baxter Dog Park and the larger park as Clearwater Park.
Please pull number 22.
Pardon me?
Please pull number 22.
Okay. Number 23, approve appointment to the seasonal position of streets and maintenance maid.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, first bold item.
All in favor?
Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Same sign, motion carries. Number 5.
Number 4 and 5, I'm abstaining from voting because that's my business.
Make a motion to approve number 4 and 5 together.
Okay. Motion by Kraus.
Second.
Second by Lissu. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All same sign, motion carries. And 21, approve the Initiative Foundation contribution.
Yes, I hold a position of authority within the Initiative Foundation, so I'd like to abstain.
Okay.
Motion to approve number 22.
Motion by Kraus.
Second.
Second by Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Both same sign, motion carries. I think we got them all, yeah. Okay, other business, number 24, adopt resolution number 2025-055, adopting assessment roles for the 2025 commercial full depth reclamation improvements project, municipal project number 4425. Brad?
Thank you, Mayor. The 3 items that are on other business are all items that were tabled for the May 20th council meeting to, at the direction of the council to obtain additional information ranging from legal liability related to the bidding process, various project costs, and other items. I do want to note that those items or the information requested has been included in the RCAs related to the project. In that context, I do want, I'm not going to go into them in detail, but I do want to highlight 2 things that are important. I do want to note, first, I want to note that the 2025 FDR project is more than on way. So action taken tonight, either for or against, does impact the entire project. And I say that as we, as staff, have went to the apparent low bidder about honoring the quote for the remainder of the project. And under bidding laws, they do not have to, if it's more than 20% of the total project or budget, or the bid. And with the removal of on-way, we wouldn't be able to do that 20%. And the contractor has indicated that they would not honor the quote for the remainder of the project. So by default, any action taken, if it's in removal, dismissal, or denial of the project, it would be for the entire project. The other item that I do want to note is as part of the conversation on May 20th, Public Works Director Walter had indicated there are other improvements that are identified as ancillary or being done in conjunction with the 2025 FDR. A list of those improvements were included as a memo that was attached to the RCA's with the cost as it's broken down as related to the project and as a standalone being estimated. We'll have to go out with that. So I do want to note those two items. We've heard testimony, you've heard all the other, you haven't seen all the other information that's been requested. So at this point in time, this will be the opportunity for council to have final dialogue in regards to the project, and at the conclusion of that dialogue, be looking for a motion to either move forward and approve the three items that are related to the 2025 FDR, or to deny it. In the motion for denial, I do want to note that as it relates to the acceptance of the bids, if it's to deny the bid, I do want to note that it needs to be for all of the bids. And then we would turn around and memorialize that action with a resolution at the July 1st meeting, as the 429 process does require it be done by resolution. So just wanted to provide that additional information, turn it over to the mayor and council for discussion.
Okay, so the recap of that is that one of the questions we had asked for the attorney's opinion is whether we could walk away from that bid.
Correct. And the legal opinion was included in your packet, and there was indication that there is clearly there's no liability in regards to rejecting bids if that was the decision that the council proceeded with.
And the second question to the attorney was about vacating a portion of Audubon Way.
Yeah.
Which
There was general conversation or comments made about, turning over the road, as there's nobody that uses it, or in that context. Obviously, there's property owners on the east side that rely on that access. So the point in context is that we do have a responsibility for maintenance of the road, and we wouldn't be able just to vacate it for the sake of not vacating.
Well, with an average daily traffic count of 238 at the arguably slowest part of this road, I don't think vacating the road would be a viable option at all. Because it does get used.
Brad, you might want to explain where those numbers came from.
Sure. One of the questions or inquiries was in regards to the annual daily traffic or the traffic counts related to it. Being that it's a local road, it is not, traffic counts do not occur on a every 3-year basis. Our state aid routes are done every 3 years, as is the state highway system. So it's not, Audubon Way is not one of the roads that would be subject to periodic traffic counts. So staff did reach out to BLADAC, which is our economic development arm. They do have a program that they utilize for their businesses called Placer. It is a database that's based off of cell phone movements and things of that nature that allows for us to get data as it relates to traffic or movements to and from properties, or from, and that's just general, it's not necessarily Patrick Sundberg or things like that, it's just general data. And so with that being said, included in the RCA is the summary of the traffic counts using the Placer program. Obviously, there are segments of that road that aren't as utilized as others, so I'll just summarize the portion from the south entrance from 371 to the south entrance of the Holiday Inn Express has an annual daily traffic count of 741. The portions between the two driveway entrances of Holiday Inn Express is 238. And then from the north entrance of Holiday Inn to the intersection of 371 on the north side of the subject area has a daily traffic count of 2,077.
And that's derived how again?
It is, a Placer program is a service that the BLADEC subscribes to get real-time data as it relates to traffic movement and other business data to help businesses make informed decisions related to their businesses. So being a member of BLADEC, we do have access to that data, and so we requested them to do a Placer inquiry, and this is the result of that inquiry.
Council, any comments?
I guess I would just note that it looks like, you know, each of these more, I guess, critical items that were listed out are going to cost significantly more if they are spread out and done separately. So that's a concern for me, is there is an efficiency here.
So meaning the other property owners, ERUs is gonna increase costs, is that what you're?
Well, ultimately, I'm thinking it's looking like the city is going to have to absorb significant added costs that all the taxpayers would be burdened with. Maybe, I don't know if
Isn't
that's.
that the breakout of the numbers that are in the project that are already state costs?
They would be, yes, but per unit, it does look like each unit is going up, is what I'm seeing, and I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding the way that's breaking out.
Yeah, so in the memo from WITSEP dated June 10th, it identifies the necessary repairs that would have to occur regardless of the project moving forward, broken down by roadway, Audubon Way and Whispering Woods Lane. In that context, I will note that there are several items related to Whispering Woods Lane that is, you know, subject to a developer's agreement with Menards that we would have to return, go back to Menards and talk about seeking resolution as it relates to the necessary repairs related to that roadway. But in the context of each and every one of those repairs or improvement or repairs of maintenance items, there is two numbers, and Alex, you can correct me if I'm wrong. In that context, there's two numbers. One is the numbers that are based on the quote received from the apparent low bid, and then a number that is a range based upon conversations with contractors of that expertise related if there was to be a standalone repair for each one of those items. So for example, catch basin repairs, the repair cost approximately $3,000 per the bid. Based upon historical numbers, when we do those repairs, we're typically charged $6,000 to $13,000 based upon the severity of the issue. So it kind of gives you the cost that the city will incur, we anticipate to incur if, you know, we don't move forward, if the city doesn't move forward with the project. Because Trevor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but these are identified as necessary improvement repairs that need to occur within those right-of-ways.
Correct.
How many of them have to be done if the road project is it?
The sewer has to be done immediately if this project does not go forward. We would monitor the storm sewer. The storm sewer, we usually don't do the repairs until the road starts caving in.
An example of that would be College Road a few weeks ago.
Correct.
And the reason the sanitary joint repair would be 2.5 times the cost is because we have to put the road back.
We have to put all the road and concrete, valley gutter and curb and gutter all back in, half the repairs. Which was part of the project with the street assessments, yeah.
I understand.
Also, we got a very good bid price on the repair from the apparent low bidder. We were shocked at what they bid it after we do the repair.
You know, we've said this before too, but people say, well, I drive that road, there's nothing wrong with it, I walk it, there's nothing wrong with it. The bottom line is, it's what's underneath there is also the problem. All of those, before a project is done, and actually before it gets very far along, they're all televised. So, you and I don't know what's going on there, but the television shows what's broken, what's ready to be broken, what's leaking. And so it's not all what, you know, what meets the eye there.
Is the televised showing the road or the sewer? Because the way I see it, we're being asked to pay for the sewer repair, or I mean, a big chunk of it. The road either needs to be done or it doesn't.
Are all those sewer costs, those are taken into the city, right?
Right, but he just said, you have to tear up the road and put it back, whereas if we do it, if you do the road, then we're paying for that.
That's absolutely true, and everybody benefits from the fact that that sewer system works.
Right, but if the road doesn't need to be, why are we, I mean, if that's a city expense, it's a city expense. If I have expenses at my building, I have to pay it, whether, whoever uses it. It either needs to be done or it doesn't.
So
I think what she's saying is that the sewer's not an additional expense, but it's gonna be done because of the road project. The sewer is actually what needs to be done, and the road is possibly, I'm not gonna argue that point, especially certainly now. So we're the ones being assessed the taxes, and if it was just a sewer repair, the entire city and all the taxpayers would be assessed the taxes.
that's exactly the question we're being asked to answer right now. It's just, do we take the cost and say the city will bear an added expense to fix the sewer, or do we do it all and get it done more efficiently, but it costs the taxpayers in front of that road more money? That's the way I see this question.
But I don't feel it's fair to me to pay $111,000.
Definitely heard that.
It doesn't need to be done.
We understand that.
Well, again, I think it's a difference in opinion as to the condition of the road. We have individuals who have identified it as being, it's coincidental. If there wasn't a sewer problem, we would still be moving forward with, if the city was still moving forward with a lot of the project, it would still be 100,000, you know, your assessment would still be the same.
But you're the.
So I'm just indicating you are trying to, there's a belief or an ideology that this is being done because of the sewer.
No, well, yeah, you're right.
And the engineering, experts that have been advising the city and the council during this period of time have identified that the road condition is at where it's at, that it requires the FDR. And again, it's debatable. We use the program to make informed decisions as it relates. There's 85 miles of road. We can't do all 85 miles in one time. So we have to be fiscally responsible in how we maintain and manage our roadway system. So we use the placer program to do that. The snapshots in time of the placer is a 5. That was several years back, a few years back.
1 year, 2024.
Yep, and I can honestly tell you that roads do deteriorate exponentially as they get older. We can debate that, but I want to be clear, is that the 2025 FDR project isn't being proposed or being, for consideration based on the other repairs that need to be done. They are coincidental and to be done at the same time, so that it is fiscally responsible of the city to do those repairs while you have, if you opened up your wall and you saw that the pipes need to be fixed, you're gonna fix it, right? It's the same,
And I
it's the
totally
same
agree with
concept.
that, efficiency is good.
Yep.
But if something doesn't need to be done, then I'm being charged a ridiculous amount of money.
So if the sewer wasn't an issue, would you be replacing that road this summer?
Per the Pacer numbers, yes.
But it says for a pacer rating of 5, it requires a seal coating. That's what it says right here, I can show you.
So you can just tell me that if the sewer was fine, that road would be replaced regardless because it's at a 5? Really?
Trevor, would you come up and speak in the regards to?
I don't have it in front of me, I'm not prepared to speak on chasing. Seal coating, I don't know where you got that, Joe.
Right, I can show you.
Because that's not what the Pacer rating is for a 5.
No?
The seal coating is not the treatment. You have it covered?
I do. You want to see what I have?
That's not our chart.
Well.
I don't have the pavement management plan, I'm sorry. But when it gets to a 4 and a 5, the recommended is FDR.
It's on the border of the.
Yeah, a 3 and a 4 is on the edge of a mill and overlay. 5 and 6, I mean, it's a scale from 0 to 10. What she has there is the chart from the manual. That's not what the city.
I got it online.
I know, but it's part in our manual, that is the engineering Pacer rating chart. If you read the whole thing, that's the Pacer rating chart system, what we started it based on. Then you go to the rest of the manual, and the city adopted per these Pacer ratings, this is what we adopted. I wish I had it in front of me.
We're prepared to rehash the whole thing here tonight, so.
I want to say our road was redone last summer, FDR, and the Pacer rating, I believe, was a 5. For FDR.
That is that chart that she's showing you is the general chart off of the website that we put in our manual from the university that developed the Pacer rating scale. And then from there, we took and have the engineering science in that manual. It's about 50, 60 pages long. That
How about this for a discussion? My concern comes from the fact that we're going to do other work here anyway, and it is still more efficient unit for unit, dollar for dollar to do the whole project, is what I'm hearing from the most recent data. And from the start, what I want to affirm or deny is the professional engineers that we pay to make these decisions, because the lay person doesn't have the same skill set as a professional engineer do you believe this overall solution is appropriate for the level of deterioration that is in that roadway?
For the roadway, yes. Yes. Doing a mill and overlay would not fix that road for another 20, 25 years. You probably get 5 to 12 years out of it with a mill and overlay. The right way to fix the road right now is to go to an FDR. Yeah. For our adopted pavement management program, a 9 to 10 is maintenance category of route and seal. A 6, 7, and 8 is maintenance category of patching and microsurfacing. A 5 and a 6 is a mill and overlay rehabilitation. And 3 and 4s are rehabilitation of full depth reclamation and paving. And 1 to 2 is total reconstruction. It's right on the edge of that 4 and 5 on those segments in there. There's that alligator cracking right behind the Holiday Inn Express, actually on the low volume portion of the only 248 cars a day is where all the alligator cracking is, which there is a subsurface problem. Then there's a problem right behind Maury's and Von Hansen's. That's in there, that's all alligator cracking too. That is a subsurface problem. And you can see it, Mark Cross, Councilmember Cross, brought it up at the last council meeting when he looked on the GIS and aerial photo. If you can see it, all that crack sealing is just every direction in those 2 spots. They are 4s and 3s if you did just those stretches on the pacer rating. So that's why, I mean, when you look at it as a whole, there are several areas that are just about where they're gonna totally fail.
If you took out those 2 sections that had subsurface problems, what would the rest of the road be rated?
The rest of the road is still rated at 9 ton. The original design never done. Pacer rating of the rest was 5 on an average.
So it's the,
I don't know if any of it would hit a 6.
so what's the subsurface issue behind Morris?
I'm assuming it's probably not enough class 5 or maybe bituminous thickness. I mean, we don't do core sampling. To find out exactly what the problem is, we'll find it out when we get in there and doing the FDR.
The problem at the other end is the sewer line leak.
Sewer line leak is right at the north entrance to the Holiday Inn Express. And then the 2 of the catch basins that are just about ready to fail is right behind Von Hansen's in that alligator cracking area. And one of the other catch basins that's just about ready to fail is right there behind Holiday Express in that alligator cracking area there as well. So I'm really worried that there's a problem with the pipes too. Once we expose it, we may run into other issues. So that's why that range is in there from 6,000 to 13,000 for repairs. It depends on when we open them up and what we find. That last one on College Road was all the way down to the bottom of the catch basin, and that was a $13,000 repair, so that's where that number come from. That was an invoice just from Anderson Brothers just last week on that repair on College Road this year.
And that was caused because of?
The grout let go inside the catch basin at the bottom, and then it caused the sand to leak in and caused the road then to sag and give out up and up. We rehabbed the top of it in 2022, and then we never caught it at the bottom. It was already starting to fail with the grout. So that was a big discussion that we've had among ourselves, because we probably should have been caught, so we weren't doing total televising before the project started back in 2021. See, now that's why we went forward with televising all the storm sewer and all the sanitary sewer before we do any maintenance or rehabilitation of the pavement surface, is to find out if we have other problems. And that's when we found, because the road was scheduled for an FDR in 2025, we televised all the sanitary sewer and storm sewer to get ready for the project and found other problems. On Audubon Way, we found those 3 catch basins, and then we found that sanitary sewer. On Edgewood Drive, we found I&I problems with the Ys on the sanitary sewer. You gotta remember, this project started out as a lot bigger project with Lake Forest Road and Edgewood Drive, Audubon Way and Whispering Woods Lane.
So could you conclude that if our system had leak underneath, maybe we wouldn't be replacing the road, we'd be doing a mill and overlay?
No, I still would recommend an FDR because of those 2 major spots with the alligator cracking.
I missed that question. If we hadn't had problems with our storm sewer and sanitary sewer, would we just mill and overlay that whole thing? Because there would be alligator cracking.
If there was no alligator cracking and it was still a 5 or a 6, then it would be mill and overlay.
And do we ever get to the point where we just FDR sections and mill and overlay other portions that don't need?
We have never done that, but it could be done that way. Good, yes.
Is this road out of Way, is that currently a 10-ton road?
No, currently not. The old standard Patrick was all 9-ton design, but back 2000, actually into the 90s through about 2010, 2014. When we come out of the Great Recession, that's when the statewide, they changed the design standards to 10-ton and all commercial in order to make it easier for the businesses to carry the heavier loads year-round.
So if you said it would be possible to do part of the road in FDR and part of it in mill and overlay, how did they talk about this project or just in general? And if it could be done,
It could be done, but we'd have to start all over, hold
That's
a
my
new
next
improvement
question.
hearing, redo the plans and specs because it changed the cost, of course.
and that would incur more cost just going through that process
Yep.
again.
Start all over again with the engineering process and the design and the bidding and
Feasibility report.
feasibility report, you have to redo the feasibility report.
Well, I don't want us to get to the point where we've got a road that's got 15 to 25% of a problem, that we take the whole road down to that same level. I mean, you know, we're talking about being fiscally responsible with the pavement we've got on the ground and trying to make it last as long as we can. I know there's efficiencies in, you know, doing the entire, if it were a mile, doing the entire mile the same way, but if 3/4 of it doesn't need to be torn out and redone, it doesn't make financial sense to do it.
The other engineering judgment that come in that we presented in the improvement hearings twice was that over 50% of the curb and gutter is needing replacement. And once you reach that 50% of replacing the curb and gutter, then you take and tear it all out and do it with a curb machine, which is actually cheaper than doing the spot repairs of the existing curb and gutter. And of course, replacing all the curb and gutter is, by the time you take and tear out the bituminous in order to get the curb machine in there, you're pretty much then to an FDR versus a mill and overlay. You can't replace the curb and gutter in its completeness without taking the bituminous off. So then mill and overlay doesn't work. Mill and overlay only works if you're doing spot repairs to the curb and gutter. So that we presented too in the improvement hearings. Is that Audubon Way, after we walked it and marked all the sections that need repaired, about 55 to 60% needs repairs. Well, then it was more cost effective to replace all the curb and gutter. It's actually cheaper than taking and doing the spot repairs. So that we've learned over the years too. We've been tracking it since about 2014. When we go into a road, whether spot repairs of curb and gutter or replacing it all, which is more cost effective. So when you looked at the curb and gutter being totally replaced, then the FDR on the whole street was more cost effective. Otherwise, what you do is you tear out, 5 or 6 feet of the bituminous in order to get the curb machine in there, and then you're doing spot repairs of the subgrade in order to do the mill and overlay. So I don't know, we've never run the numbers of mixing and matching mill and overlay with FDR when we're doing total curb replacement. Usually just done one or the other, because the other problem you got is it's 2 different machines. The milling machine is one type of machine and the reclaim machine is another type of machine. So then you're doing 2 mobilizations and 2 different subcontractors coming in and doing those methods of construction. So as you know, Mark, there's a lot that goes into this. And like I say, we presented all of it at the improvement hearings. We did not present a mixed match on the road of FDR and mill and overlay because I don't know if it'd be cost effective or not. I've never run the numbers on it. I've always done one or the other on the street.
Any other questions or comments, or this is the time for council to discuss the project?
I'm struggling a little bit with when I noted that I'm not concerned with whether or not the road is in good condition or not. That was not in the context of knowing that we absolutely need to be in that road doing repairs to the sewer at the time that statement was made. So I have concerns about the idea that we're gonna go in there and we're gonna do a good portion of the work anyway. And then I do think, I know, Joan, you don't feel this way, but I want to just say out loud that, you have been heard, more than any business owner that I can think of in the 8 years that I've been around. This is not a matter of lack of due process here, and I just want to note that, all the commentary has been heard, and we have done a whole lot of added thinking about this project, regardless of which way it goes. So, I don't know what the right answer is right this moment off the cuff, but we're taking on inefficiencies if we don't do the whole thing, and we can choose to do that. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to throw the note there too. We would be going against our own pavement management program, the plan that has been established and has been set up by voting this.
Therein lies one of the concerns I have. I said the night that I asked to delay this was, I don't know that it's wise governance decision-making to go against our set standards. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Well, just sitting here mulling over all the options here. Yeah, the cost effectiveness of one over the other. If we do nothing and leave it alone, and we have to start making these repairs, and then we start patching the road, it's gonna be worse than it is now. The other thing is if we back up and decide to do a hybrid, we do have to start all over. And so where do the holding costs come into this thing? Would they have to be added back into the new proposal? They gotta be paid someplace. And so that project will probably be worse and get worse. But I don't know that. I'm surmising here. And so, we could put ourselves into a vicious cycle here of, what's the best thing to do? conversation, but I don't know, how wise that is. Plus, the city will still have an obligation, a legality, responsibility with our insurance company. So I'm trying to, from the cheap seats, I'm trying to look at all these things and figure out what, and none of them are good, don't get me wrong. It's very, very expensive, and it's, quite frankly, it's irritating, to everybody. I understand that. Which of those options is the best route to go is what I'm struggling with. I don't know.
I have to say, just as a voice of one, this is one of the more difficult votes that I've had to make.
I think I could hear it.
Just for my voice, this project is one of the more difficult votes that I have had to make, and I've gone back and forth numerous times.
Yeah. Any words of wisdom, council?
I think we have some questions from the audience. We can take those.
Has their hand up.
Yeah, I think we're done with that, but.
1 minute for observation, not a complaint. That's okay.
You got something new?
That's kind of new. I'm Rocky Mullen, member of FitQuest. I'm planning and zoning council or commissioner with East Lake. And in my understanding of the way city business is run, in this case, you have your public works department here, who is responsible for repair, maintenance, and improvement of the whole infrastructure for the city. It works under the control of the city fathers and mothers, city council, and takes direction and guidance from the city council. In turn, is responsible for the overall well-being of the city and takes direction and guidance from the people, the community, business owners, and the citizens. It seems like what's happened in this situation, these roles have been reversed, and you have the public works department dictating to the council what should be done to this thing, while you have the community saying it should be done. It's not a road that's used often. It could be deferred for 2 or 3 years, or until maybe some businesses get developed on each side when that road really starts being used. So that's a vote like this, and a vote, are you benefiting the community or are you benefiting public works? So that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
My only comment to that is, we as the council directed our city engineer to come up with a pavement management plan, which we then approved. So in your scenario, we are the ones who have approved this particular plan, and Public Works is implementing the plan. So it is our policy. Doesn't necessarily mean we can't adjust our policy or change it, but right now that is the policy. And yeah, it's a problem.
Any thoughts? I think we don't want to leave here tonight without a decision. The year is getting away from us if we're gonna do something.
I have 2 thoughts, Mayor.
Pardon me?
I have 2 thoughts.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna throw the scenario out there as if this were a new road and we had utility problems underneath it, we'd go in and fix it. Right? Now we didn't, and we haven't, and it's caused problems, and it's now sections of that road are bad. Not the whole road. I went and drove it right after we had our last meeting. Parts of it are not, but there's sections of it that are bad. In my mind, I'm looking at it going, yeah, we could let it go a few more years, but we still have to go in and fix at least the sewer project. And if we went in and repaired the sewer project, then would it be a mill and overlay? Wouldn't the road fall under mill and overlay? find there's a sub-base issue or a water leak underneath it, did that not contribute to the fact that it's bad? Or some could argue that it was built too close to the water table. But if that were the case, the whole road should be like that, not just a section of it. So, like I said last time, I would be fine letting it go until you come back to us and say it's so bad, it's gotta be fixed. But I understand it's gonna cost twice as much. And if we have to fix what we have broken under there, we could fix it and patch it. And that's one scenario but in the long run, that doesn't save you any money. It saves you money today, but. And how many business owners are here tonight? There's 2 businesses here. I don't know if we've heard from the rest of them. I'm sorry.
That's me, correct, but it's another business that would not be able to, so.
Let me say that differently. Property owners, the ones that actually pay the assessment. So out of, what are there, 9 or 10? 9, we have 2 here. So is that, is that to say the other 7 are fine with it, or just don't care? How are we supposed to take those numbers? Can we see?
Mr. Cross, you can look at it that way, you should also look at, there's a third meeting of each, not a resident of Baxter, what hell over there, over for you, people up there. I'm sure you're all familiar with people, very fast and everything else. But I have been to 3 meetings, and I've seen upwards of 100 different people here. Not engineers, just residents, citizens that vote for the people in that want to hear their voice. And I can, with the exception of people that have skin in the game that are gonna get paid off the project, and I've got no due respect. I've not had one person that's come say, I'm all for this. So you can take the other 6 or 7 businesses, say they must not care. Well, the other thousands of people that are residents in Baxter must not care if it doesn't get fixed either. So let's take the ones that were here, because it was unanimous. We can't argue that point. So where are they? They're not here.
But those people were here at some of those first meetings, those property owners. You know, you can have 1,000 people here, but most of them go live in Baxter, and it's really, they're not property owners. The people we're concerned about is the people that actually own the property and would be assessed this. And those people did show up and came to at least one meeting, and were they happy? Probably not, but they heard the story for one thing. That was very important. And they went away, so.
But if I had come in the fall, I didn't know how much I didn't know if it was a $2,000 road repair. And I wouldn't have known that even that night.
But you would have heard the whole story though, and then you would know what they do.
But I don't know anything about roads, I don't know, like I said, to me, I had no idea.
So this was before I was on the council. I was at that meeting, and Edgewood Drive was part of that.
Right.
And I was able to argue that Edgewood Drive was 1 level pacer rating above Audubon Way. And I was able to argue to get Edgewood Drive off of that. And I'm happy to hear that by doing that and splitting up the projects, it moved the construction process past our busy season. So Edgewood Drive is due in 2 months. And during that meeting, I had multiple conversations and saw the different options.
Did you know how much it was gonna cost you though?
$150,000.
Right, you knew, I didn't.
At that meeting,
But
that
I
was part of
told,
that.
and I didn't even know in January.
And I understand that, but I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but
But it's not 2020 when there is no hindsight to be had. Had I known, you better believe I would have been at that meeting. I called to find out, we didn't know.
Okay, and I understand that, we've heard that, but let's bring it back to the council. What are we gonna
dynamic that just came up is something I've had deep concerns about all along. Is it fair to the business owners who came early and were engaged, who didn't bring a large number of people in who are not the property owners, to have this be a political decision? We can make either decision, but there is a little bit of a fairness issue for those who followed the process closely and were engaged. And there's still further due process for those of you who don't agree with this project, if you choose to exercise that right. So I'm concerned about that as well. We've all heard homeowners make the same arguments about roads, sewer, water, and all the assessments there. And the concern I have is we have derailed this process pretty greatly because we have listened very closely. And I don't know about the following of the structures that we have set up for good governance. That's what concerns me at this point, is we've heard it all out. The engineers are still saying that they think the whole project should be done. And I don't like doing assessments. I don't like putting them on business owners or residents, but that's the system that we have and have had for many years. And it has worked, and all of the other outlet valves that are available to both residents and business owners have worked and continue to work. So those are my concerns, I guess. I've gotten through a lot of thinking about this one, and while I agree that I'm not that worried about the road condition personally, in trying to follow the process, we would not be following our set process the way we have for every other business owner and resident in this city if we don't move forward.
And I think that too is what makes this vote so difficult for me, is because listening to all of you about the importance of FitQuest and what it means as far as community and overall health. As I said at the last meeting, you're preaching to the choir on that, but I have to guard my thinking on that and not just vote with my heart, because I can understand and I can relate, and I'm an empath. Anybody who knows me would agree. But as far as derailing the process, that's a very good point.
After hearing absolutely everything that's been brought up and taking into consideration the engineers' reports and professional opinions, I'm going to motion that we approve all three.
I'll second that.
Yeah, just approve all three.
All three.
All three motions, okay. So you have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
So 3 yes and 2 no's. Just full disclosure here, Mr. Craven did call me Friday night, Dutch. We had a very nice conversation. It wasn't hostile or amiable, at all. That's not the right word. But he wasn't even aware that his own people had been here at the meeting. So, and Brad, he was at a meeting, and Brad had spent some other hours with him also, time with him also. So he was brought up to speed on what had happened. And like I said, his people actually had attended at least one of the meetings. So, okay, I told him that I would.
So did he tell you whether or not he was in favor of it or not?
No, he was not.
Okay.
But he also said he could afford it.
So just for clarification, the vote was 3-2 in favor of moving forward with the project. So the resolution adopting the assessment, the resolution accepting the bid, and the approval of the administrator or the engineering contract were approved 3-2 vote. Sure, it's clear for everybody.
Council comments?
Better choices than that.
If you're so unsure about it, I don't know how you can go on that vote. I mean, it's ridiculous.
We went down from mechanical 5 in 20 years, that's down 4 levels. Every 4 years, it went down 1 level. Only 4 more years. Shouldn't be that high.
And
It
3 years
should.
ago, 3 of you said no.
Should not be.
Okay, thank you.
With all the people here voting and supporting it, not be.
Not voting for anything.
Not be.
Just in light of all the heaviness just nationwide and statewide with the assassinations of our representative, just reading what their adult children had suggested that we all do is to be extra kind to each other, to perhaps visit a park, visit a playground, visit a bike trail, and just understand there's a lot more good in the world than bad.
Stuff is here, I guess.
That's all.
The other form is all gone.
Agreed.
We're is all gone.
In a very sad place right now. It's unfortunate that that's the way the world is. Everybody has to make and live with their own decisions, and it's just hard.
Is that it? Patrick?
I have no comments.
Mark?
No comments.
I have comments. Other than, have a safe 4th of July, that's, we won't see each other before then. Enjoy your time. Brad?
Just disclosure, we will have a forum for the 3 days as all of us will be attending the League of Minnesota Cities Conference in Duluth from the 25th through the 27th. We will be posting that forum in accordance with state statute. The only other item is to go into closed session under Minnesota Statute 13D.03 for labor negotiations. So to conclude, if you're looking for entering into closed session.
I'll make a motion to close the open and open the closed session.
Senator Lucille.
Second.
Senator Tabbitt, any further discussion?